This video is absolutely insane, and before we start, I want to tell a little story. It's very rare to see this level of backseating, but I have seen it before. And whenever anyone asks me about whether or not I've ever left Mythic Plus, there's always one answer that sticks out. The only thing that has ever made me want to leave a Mythic Plus, and probably still would make me want to leave a Mythic Plus to this day, is behavior like you're going to see in this key. Somebody who is constantly typing about what everyone else is doing. I cannot understand why this behavior happens, and I don't know how to combat this behavior. Typically, I would encourage players to try to ignore people doing stuff similar to this, but not to this level of severity. I would typically encourage them to just try to be kind and just not fight with them, because once you start fighting with them, it's over. But yeah, I don't know how you fix something like this, because it is so incessant and it's just on everything, every possible thing some guy is commenting on. You just can't do the dungeon at that point. We're going to be showing a lot of the chat in this one. Right out of the gate, you see this comment here. Okay, so this video is already in progress. This is the start of the recording, but the key is already in progress. So we're going to read to you what led up to this that caused the player, who I guess doesn't normally record their runs, to start recording it in the middle of the run. It says, "This is a video of Stone Vault 12. Everything went fine until we somehow pulled a larger trash pack than intended before the second boss. Unfortunately, the group disbanded during the third boss after we wiped. I typically don't have issues with that boss or the trash pulls, but I believe the Paladin's constant criticism affected the group's morale and focus. I know I'm not the best Blood Death Knight, but improvements will come in small steps. Also, in general, I just picked up WoW with the release of the War Within. Great, so if anybody sees anything Blood Death Knight related, feel free to leave feedback on that as well. Anyway, here's a brief timeline of the run. Since I started the video late, the run started well, with the big pull at the beginning being flawless. We reached the hall before the second boss, where I pulled the pack outside the doorway. Someone accidentally aggroed mobs inside the boss room, including the wandering mob." There's actually a question mark on accidentally. I think, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was an accident, but given how this player is playing and how he's constantly criticizing everything around him, I also wouldn't be surprised if he aggroes it as well, which seems crazy. Anyway, as people begin to fall one by one, I managed to solo save the pack. People released and ran into the pack again without our healer present, so they died again. Paladin was very vocal, urging me to use AMZ, but I was focused on kiting and surviving the pull. I chose to ignore the Paladin at that point, then I pulled the boss. So now we're going to go back to the actual footage, and this is pretty much picking up where we left off with all that text description. So they're talking, the hunter's talking like we showed, and I guess he dies at some point, okay? And so at this point, the Paladin must be still talking. So the player, as you see, has him on ignore list, so they're actually going to unignore him. Thank you for doing that, otherwise this wouldn't be a video. So that boss dies with no problems. I don't know, it's a 3-minute fight, so it doesn't seem like there was a single problem on that fight, but we don't know for sure what led into it. And now this is where things are really going to ramp up. And I think we actually get a little gem here. Look at this. They're scrolling back in their chat, probably from the actual wipe that was talked about in the video, and you can see this guy here. Yeah, this has to be in relation to what was said before, right? He says, "Why don't you pull the fucking second despoiler instantly? My God, I'm so done with this boosted people, in this bracket." Anyway, onto the area going towards the third boss now, and we are going to run into some things that maybe are kind of discussion points of improvement, as well as this wild, wacky stuff we're looking at here today. This is a good start. I think, the pull pace in this area and the route in general is going to come into question. This first pull is yeah, you should definitely double pull here. But for me, I always feel like we need to make sure we walk out of here with major CDs still available, because this next pack is really, really critical. You do not want to lose Purgatory here, and it can get really out of control with this many enemies if you do not have major CDs up, especially for the start. Okay, so we're going to actually walk into this pack with no dancing rune weapon, and I would say that is a kind of big mistake that you could have tried to solve here, because now you see we walk into the pack and we already have major stacks. We got 10 stacks here and we lose Purgatory. This is basically just CD mismanagement, if you ask me. And now we're in this really hellacious kiting pattern here where the mobs aren't even together. It's all separated. We are, of course, going to get a Paladin comment. No surprise there. He says, I think that's 6 question marks and what the fuck. So anyway, now we're in serious danger, and this is normally going to be really bad coming out of the split for me, but we actually do a route that's significantly different than the one that I've done, and I think probably one that a lot of people aren't expecting to be done, which is going to cause even more conversation. So anyway, they're back to arguing with each other. The hunter says, "Stop speaking, dog." The Paladin says, "You are the dog. Die cuz typing." He's referring to something that got said at the very beginning of the video. So anyway, instead of going right to the anvil, we are actually going to go left here, which is a strange decision on its own, because I don't know what count we would need from this side. I'm not really sure. I guess the purpose is to clear out out the cart, I guess, right? That's something that maybe it seems interesting, but you know, we kind of learned about it early in the season that this cart does not really save as much time as you would think, and instead the actual anvil saves far more time than the cart does. But anyway, the paladin is now, of course, talking about the route. So I just wanted to bring that up because at the end of the day, as the tank, you know, you get to choose the route and nobody else can dictate that for you. But there's a reason this guy's bringing it up. The hunter is going right at this guy. It's really crazy. He says, not as crazy as your mouth. And then the paladin, he's just like not even trying to fight with the hunter. He's just like fighting with everybody else, right? He says, 8 of 8 heroic Andy tank, LOL, all caps. Like, what the fuck are you bringing up rating for in a Mythic plus 12? The hunter says, you're only 5 of 8, which is actually really funny when you see what we're going to end on here. And the paladin again just doesn't even pay attention to him and says, insane route, no hammer, insane tank, insane. So I manages to use the word insane 3 times in 4 sentences. I saw a post the other day. What do you think is the most overused word in the English language? What are your thoughts on that? The top comment, it was on Reddit, somebody said insane. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. That does get used way too often. This video is absolutely insane. Anyway, the hunter says, bro, shut up and play. Great retort here from the paladin. He says, I'm not your bro. Wow, really clever. The hunter says, stop crying. In another great clever response, he says, stop dying. At least that rhymes. The hunter says, you died same amount, noob. I'm doing more damage than you. Okay, so they're now arguing about DPS. And the paladin says, enjoy, ignore. Anyway, so we're on this fight now. So I thought this was actually like a real positive thing he said there, but he actually is being sarcastic because when they pull this boss, you're going to see that the first kick by the mage. So I thought that the mage was on top of this. And, you know, since he kicked the first one, he's going to be able to kick these. Because the mage kicks the first one, it is not actually up for the second one. Or maybe it is. I don't know. It's really hard to tell. You can see the interrupt tracker to the right of the health bar there. And we're going to see like the actual cast of the spell. That's like the only indication I have that the spell was cast. And it happens like just as the mage's CD is up. Pause when the mage's CD is up. But it's like, I think he might be able to kick him. Like, yeah, I think he could probably get this cast, but it's like literally last second, like actually 1 second of window there. And within that 1 second of window, this is how tilted or whatever you want to say, like how aggressive this dude is. This dude is like pouncing on any opportunity he can to attack other human beings. He says, insane kick, mage, god. I mean, all right. I honestly thought that was praise. Like I really, really wanted to believe it was. And this guy was just like talkative about everything, not just negative stuff, but to be like sitting there and like waiting for this guy to not kick. I mean, you got to realize that too, right? Like the dude's CD is just not up. He kicked the first one. It's unfortunate, but like somebody else is going to have to do it. So we're getting in this really awkward situation where the mage's CD is not currently up. But now this is interesting. I guess he's going to get it up with some spell that he has. I don't really know. He's like casting some spell and now it's back up. But again, it's like literally back up. He finishes that channel the second the spell ends. So I don't really know what you're supposed to do here. I'm not really sure if you just need a second person to kick this or what, but now of course the paladin is on the mage again. Second time the cast goes out and within seconds, like I'm talking about maybe 1 second after the cast goes out, he says, mage, wake up. It does concern me that this guy just keeps kicking the melee one though. Like he's going to kick that one again and it's now like, I guess again, not going to be up for the ranged one. I don't really know, but we make like a relatively bad mistake here. We're kind of just like tanking in the middle. I mean, like everybody makes a bad mistake though, because they also just stand in the middle when the mechanic's happening. Watch it again here. We're going to kind of drag him to the middle. I mean, I have a lot of trouble with this fight too, because it's very hard to see where you need to stand when the fire is still on the vents. So they're at that vent now and they need to move to this vent to our left, but because it's covered in fire, people like aren't going to notice that, I guess. And like, yeah, people are going to just literally run right into the block. You can't make this shit up, dude. Like watch these players. They actually suicide. Okay. So here they're going to run through the middle and I get it. Like the tank is kind of dragging them into their death here, but you see the block is coming, right? These guys actually run into their own death. Watch this guy. Watch this dude's health frame, right? He literally walks into the box. Look at his character. Walks right into the box and then types this bullshit. Ha 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 ha. That tanking. Ha 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 ha. Brother, you walked into a mechanic. The druid is actually saying sorry because he knows he did the same thing, which was, you know, again, I get it. It was kind of baited by the tank, but like, what are you expecting to do there? There's fire here on the spot that you're supposed to stand. Just don't fucking get hit by the box. The paladin says, it's not your fault. The tank has no clue. The hunter says, ignore that, paladin. This is getting insane, dude. He says, your tanking was fine. It was the healer who couldn't keep up, IMO. Oh. The druid saying sorry also follows up by saying, my blood pressure is too high at the moment, meaning that he's like very affected by all this chatter. Paladin's like still going on about this nonsense, saying the mage didn't kick, and they don't even like have a disband here. Like they literally are just stopping because of this argumentative nonsense going on. Look at the paladin's like fake hearthing. Like I don't even know what he's doing. This is not even like, nobody even leaves. They're just sitting here and like, I guess we're just done then. Like the tank doesn't want to continue. Some more comments get made like as the group is over. The druid who was talking about like high blood pressure says, and guys, chill all. Have fun. The mage says, report is out easy. Have fun with the band, paladin. Of course, we got to look at the guy further though. So like, do you remember what was said? There was some very important comments being made, right? First of all, the guy was talking about the bracket. Okay. This guy's fucking 2,900. All right. This guy's actually not even a rep paladin too. That's the weirdest part about this. And maybe the most important part about understanding this. He only just got this 12. I guess he's maybe trying to like get score as a ret now or something. Got just like too mad at tanking. I'm sure like I can't even imagine what his tanking is looking like, but you see he's done a lot of tanking. Somehow didn't do very well in Stonewall. It must be a tough dungeon for him, and switched to DPS. I get it. Much easier role, much easier to backseat the group when you don't actually have to use CDs to do well. But yeah, I think like this tells you something here, because I imagine what actually happened was like, okay, so this guy's got a good amount of experience tanking. He's seeing strategies that aren't what he would want to do as a tank unfolding, and that's frustrating him. He probably switched from tanking because like he's just like blaming everybody else for his lack of success, and so he thinks like it's going to be easier for him to succeed as the DPS role, and so he's like recently switched, because like these are recent as hell. But like this is very predictable to me, because even when I used to play alt all the time, I would always be like, oh okay, you'd be like kind of very aware of what the tank is doing because you're expecting something that you might do and it's not happening. But the comment about the raid thing was really funny too, right? Because at the time that person was 5 of 8, that the hunter said, oh, you're 5 of 8. Well, they got to 6 of 8. Grats. Maybe you can finish the raid before the season's over. As a side note, now that they have the search feature re-enabled on WoWP.io, we can actually see this person on there as well. Now, at first you might think like, oh, that guy's actually really good, but then you realize like these are like old runs that are like way lower. But yeah, like, okay, so you can actually see some information there as well. There's no stat on how much you type though. I'm gonna actually talk to these guys and see if they can get a combat log for how much is typed. That'd be very interesting what percentile typer this guy is in. But yeah, definitely the worst backseating I've seen. Just this constant stream of negative chatter. I don't know how to get somebody to understand that this is just death. Like, I don't, like, what was the point of this? Like, I really don't understand the point of this. If you wanted to succeed in the dungeon, you now just made it unsuccessful. Even if you believe that the actions the tank and the other players were doing were very detrimental to the success rate of the dungeon, anybody would know that there's more than a 0% chance that that situation can still unfold in a positive way. Like, you can just look at the timer and see that like they're actually doing pretty well here. But talking like this is 0%. You cannot upgrade a key with this. This is total death. Like, you will never have people be able to play their best when you are constantly typing about their minor mistakes. And then of course, like, you're typing instead of playing, so you're playing worse. Like, it's just an absolute snowball into a disband no matter what. Having somebody like this in a group, right? It's the worst feeling in the world. You chose this guy. You looked at the stats and said, this is the right guy for our key, and this is how he repays you. This is what's wrong with the pug world, and people like this, I want to say they should be banned, man. Like, I know it sounds aggressive, but we can't have this guy in the pug world. He looks like a stable player on statistical analysis, even on WoWP.io. I know he doesn't have a lot of runs. Like, he looks like a good invite on paper, but he's just a total madman and just destroying keys with the attitude that he's bringing for absolutely no reason. You may be right. You may be saying things that you believe shouldn't be happening at the key level you are in, but unfortunately, that's not how the pug world works. People are going to make errors, and when you put pressure on top of those errors, they will snowball into calamity. So if your only goal is to fail the key, keep up the behavior, man, because it's working. Anyway, I just couldn't believe this when I saw it, so I had to make a video on it. If anybody else has anything like this, please submit it. There's a few very strong situations where we really need to raise awareness around this player, and I know this is absolutely one of them. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the comment section. Maybe a follow-up video on this. I'm sure it's going to be wild. We will see you guys in the next one.